we have here? First, our friend Doug. Oh, Doug, it looks like you've hit the bullseye.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, but the target was Philippians 4:13, and you put contentment in God. I'm sorry, we can't accept that. Let's try Helen. Helen, what do we have here?
Well, when I think of this verse, it reminds me that I can tolerate having a 3-year-old car, run 1 mile, and not scream when they forget to put room in my medium caramel mocha, sugar-free, skim, extra hot, extra shot, extra whip.
Hold on here.
And back to Downer Doug.
Paul wrote that verse from prison about contentment.
Well, that's a good point. Too bad we're playing Miss the Point. That's another 4.13 points for Helen. Helen, what do you think?
I can do all things.
That you can. And I may need to use that verse if I'm going to keep tolerating Doug. But we'll be right back with more misusing scripture fun right here on... Yes.
1 Timothy 6, verses 6 to 10, and then 17 to 19. Yet true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. After all, we brought nothing with us when we came into the world, and we can't take anything with us when we leave it. So if we have enough food and clothing, let us be content. But people who long to be rich fall into temptation and are trapped by many foolish and harmful desires that plunge them into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and some people, craving money, have wandered from the true faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows. Teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and not to trust in their money, which is so unreliable. Their trust should be in God, who richly gives us all we need for our enjoyment. Tell them to use their money to do good. They should be rich in good works and generous to those in need, always being ready to share with others. By doing this, they will be storing up their treasure as a good foundation for the future, so that they may experience true life.
So I've got a really easy question for you. Would you like some more money? Easy question, eh? I've got an envelope here, and I've got the money that was in my wallet today, which was £40. And if we were in the same room and I said, do you want some more money? And I offered you this, what would you say? It's such a stupid question, isn't it, really? I mean, you don't even need to answer that question. I mean, who doesn't want more money? Who doesn't want a pay rise? Who doesn't want some refund from their bank? Who doesn't want things to be cheaper so they can have more cash? Who doesn't want an envelope to mysteriously come through their house with £40 in it? But when it comes to money, there are two types of people who need setting free. There's two mindsets, if you like, that there's two kind of ways of interacting with money that both cause problems for people. They cause trouble. And people have all sorts of angst around the issue of money. When I speak on money, I probably get more pushback about that message than any other topic. It touches people's buttons, doesn't it? And my experience of working with people and supporting people and talking to people about money tells me that really there's two camps of issues. All the challenges people have, you can kind of put them in two groups, which give you kind of two types of people. And I wonder which one you are. There is people who are uncomfortable receiving money, and there's people who are uncomfortable giving money. People are uncomfortable receiving money, and there's people uncomfortable giving money. And whichever discomfort you might have, and maybe you've got both in different ways, it's really important for you to work out a way to overcome it. If you want to be free and to have a real sense of just peace and security and joy, there needs to be a way for you to overcome both these discomforts. Let me just explain what they are, and then you can work out which one might be most likely to be you. There's people who are uncomfortable receiving money. That they might be just uncomfortable with the idea of money and having money and making money. And it might be partly because of the Bible verse that we've got today, which is often misquoted, which is, the misquote is this, that money is the root of evil. Money is the root of evil. You'll have heard that quote banded around. Sometimes it's banded around when there's money issues in society, when people are kind of protesting against capitalism, or maybe some fat cat bankers have got huge payouts from the government and people have got placards on it and it's saying money is the root of evil. Fortunately, the Bible doesn't actually say that. The verse, if you will listen carefully to our reading, doesn't say that money is the root of evil. It says that love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, all kinds of trouble. Which means that money itself is not evil. Money itself is not bad, but still this kind of idea can persist in our society, sometimes with church people, that money itself is tainted a bit. Maybe it's a necessary evil. And so therefore people can be uncomfortable receiving money. They can be uncomfortable going for a high-paid job. They can be uncomfortable running a business that's successful and profitable. They can be uncomfortable getting an inheritance where they receive a lot of money for a particular reason. But when you look in the Bible, there's lots of evidence, not just the verse today that doesn't say money is evil, but there's lots of positive things about money, where it's affirmed the importance of money and the importance of making money. And Paul was a businessman. Paul, who wrote this letter to Timothy that we heard, he was a businessman, and he made tents and repaired tents and sold tents. And one of the reasons he did that is because when he went around churches teaching them, he didn't want them to rely on them to give him money in order to live. He wanted to kind of stand on his own 2 feet. He didn't want to have to lean on people. He wanted to make money himself, and so he was a businessman, and so therefore he would have wanted to be successful. He would have wanted to be profitable. He wouldn't have saw anything wrong in actually making money and receiving money. And in a sense, a lot of good things can only happen if people have money. You know, if you know the story of the Good Samaritan, which is a story Jesus tells about a man who gets beat up, and the Samaritan comes and looks after him and pays for his medical care, pays for a hotel, pays for somewhere for him to stay. You can only do that if you've got money. A lot of good things in society only happen if people have money in order to give that money. And I realize that means people need to be generous, but you need to have money in the first place to actually give and to do things. So money itself is not evil. Sometimes when people think about money, you can get kind of two false gospels around money. You can get the prosperity gospel, which is the idea that if you're a good person, if you follow God and do the right thing, he'll bless you with loads of money and you become rich. And we talked a little bit about that last message, that's not actually what God promises. But you also have the poverty gospel, which is a false news as well, that people think that actually if you're poor, if you don't have money, and if you live in poverty, and if you're very poor, then that's really spiritual, because God doesn't want you to be rich. He doesn't want you to be wealthy. He doesn't want to have stuff, and so you should deliberately get low-paid jobs. Don't set up a business that's really successful. Don't invest money wisely so that you get returns over the years. That you can have a kind of poverty gospel, but it's clear in the Bible that that's not God's purposes for us either, that it's not more spiritual, it's not more kind of Jesus-like to have no money and to be poor. You find lots of verses that kind of talk about this. My Bible readings this week have been on a theme. They've been on the theme of abundance. And I've been reflecting a little bit on one of the Psalms that I've been reading this week, which is Psalm 16. And let me just read you a couple of the verses from Psalm 16. Look at what this says. Psalm 16, it says this. It says, I says to the Lord, you are my master. Every good thing I have comes from you. You alone are my inheritance. You're my cup of blessing. The land you have given me is a pleasant land. What a wonderful inheritance. Every good thing I have comes from 16 this week, and just pray those verses and just say, every good thing I've got has come from you, God. What a blessing. I'm just so grateful that you acknowledge it and you're thankful to God for it. But the second category of people, maybe that's not you. Maybe you're really comfortable receiving stuff and you earn lots of money and you like to have good business ideas and you've got inheritance or whatever it might be, and you just enjoy it and receive it and you think, well, I'm not uncomfortable with that. Maybe the second category is what gets you into trouble. And the second category of people and mindset is not people who are uncomfortable receiving, but people who are uncomfortable giving. And if that's you, if you're a little bit uncomfortable with giving, with the subject of giving, then you need to pay attention to that. You need to pay attention to what's going on inside you. And when we talk about this verse, which gets misquoted today, that money is the root of all evil, and it's like, no, that's not what it says. It says love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, all kinds of trouble. Then you have a sense of relief and you think, all right, money's not bad, that's good, because I've got quite a lot and I've got a lot coming in. And you think, well, yeah, I understand that love of money is bad, but I don't love money. I don't love money. Do you? How do you know if you love money? There's a really, really uncomfortable verse in Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10, that whenever I hear and whenever I reflect on it, I find it just unsettles my spirit a little bit and takes a bit of working through. And this is what the verse says, Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10. It says this: whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves money never has enough. So how many of you, when I said, who would like a bit more money, if I got some money and I would offer it to you, how many in your heart said, I've got enough? Not really interested. Don't need it. I've got enough. Why would I want more money? Why would I want a pay rise? Why would an inheritance? Why would, if some money come through the door randomly, why would that bring me joy? I've got enough. Is that kind of your response in your heart? Because those who love money never have enough. They're always seeking after more. They're always kind of longing after more. I've always been inspired by John Woolman, who was a Christian in the 18th century, and he lived in North America, in New Jersey, and he was a tailor, and he ran his own business, and he was very successful. He was diligent, hard worker. He was good at his job, and he found his business would grow, and he would get more and more customers. But he actually had enough money, and he didn't need any more, and he didn't want any more. And so he just did something that blows my mind. And then this is what he did. I mean, could you imagine this happening these days? That the customers could come in, and because he was getting enough money as it was, he sent them away, and he sent them to rival tailors. And he said, listen, I've got enough business here. I don't need any more money. I don't want to expand my shop. I don't want to get more staff. I don't want to work long hours. I'm just happy with what I've got. I've got enough. And he would send people away to rival businesses because he had enough. Can you imagine that? It just goes against our whole way of thinking. Those who love money never have enough. But those who are rich are not those who have the most, but those who need the least. The rich are not those who have the most, but those who need the least. Imagine being John Woolman and living in that place where you could say, actually, I've got enough. I don't need any more. It's a good test, isn't it, of whether we love money, whether we have enough. But why is it important to know whether we love money? Why does that kind of matter? Because in our Bible reading, it tells us that money's not the root of evil. Its love of money is. But it describes money as a trap. It says actually that if you long for riches, you're in trouble because money is a trap. Longing for money and loving money is a trap that you get into. And it can lead you to all kinds of evil. I mean, the word evil, it just means trouble, really. It leads you into all kinds of problems and all kinds of trouble. Maybe you might want to help us here. Just put it into the chat box if you're watching this live. What sort of trouble does it get you into if you love and long for money? If you long to be rich, what sort of traps might you fall into? What do you think? Put it in the chat box. It says that longing to be rich leads you into a trap, leads you into all kinds of traps. What sort of traps could it lead you into? Love of money leads to all kinds of evil, all kinds of trouble. If you're loving and longing for more money and wanting to be rich, what sort of trouble, what sort of traps might you land in? You maybe just want to put that in chat box as I'm talking, your ideas and your responses to it. I mean, in our Bible reading, it gives a few ideas and a few hints of what it means. It says that those who are rich in this world are proud and have a tendency to trust in money, which is so unreliable, that if we long for money and we seek money, that we can end up putting our trust, we can end up relying on money, we can end up getting our security in money, but actually money's a very insecure foundation. You know, you can imagine if you've got money in the bank, it can trick you into thinking you're safe and you're secure. You don't need anyone else. You don't need God. But actually, when you go to the doctor and you get diagnosed with cancer or some really serious health concern, or your wife does, or your kids do, then actually monies can't help you then. You know, sometimes you can buy better treatment, but actually it doesn't protect you from facing some of those difficulties. When you face bereavement or you face all sorts of pain and difficulties, when you're made redundant and you lost your job and you're too old to get another job, you start getting rejected. Money itself is an unreliable security, but longing for it means that we can tend to feel we're all right, and we can tend to be proud, and we can tend to lead into that. But it's a trap because it's unreliable, and we don't realize that until we hit something that money can't sort out, money can't solve. It says that some people who crave money have wandered from the faith in our reading. That if you're craving money and longing for money, it's less likely you will have a strong faith. In fact, it's more likely you will give up on faith if you're longing for it. And you might say, no, that's not true, but it gradually will happen without you even knowing. And it might be practically you need to work harder and you think about money more, so you pray less, you think about God less, you come to church less. It starts to get hold of your heart, and gradually, bit by bit, you might find your faith gets diluted, and what was red hot just becomes lukewarm, and you find yourself craving money and actually walking away from faith. Those who love and long to be rich, they face a trap where actually they may lose their faith. They're trusting in something that's unreliable. They're actually likely to be less generous. Did you know that? That the more money you have, the less generous you tend to be as a proportion. Survey after survey comes up with that even though people might give more money away, as a proportion, it's less and less. So they're actually being less generous. And you might think, well, that doesn't apply to me, but it's a trap that we can get into. If we long to be rich, we can have less generous hearts. Well, let me ask you this question. Let's just play this little game with me for a minute, will you? How much would it take? How much would it take for you to have enough? All right, for you to be satisfied and feel secure and think, yeah, that's it. That's what I was longing for. How much would it take? I want you to pick a number. It might be a weekly amount or a monthly amount, depending how you get your income, but pick a number. How much would it take for you to have enough? I'm not going to ask you to stick that number in the chat box, but I want you to think about what it would be. You know, we long for more, and we want to seek more, but how much is it? And I wonder if there's anybody watching, any of you who said, actually, the amount that I need to have enough, to be happy, to be secure, is 20% less than I've got now. I wonder if anybody said that. Probably, typically, when people answer this question, people don't give ridiculous answers. People don't say, well, in order to be happy and secure, what I need to do is put 3 noughts on the end of my income. People don't normally ask for that sort of figure. When people think realistically, how much do I need in order to be happy? How much is enough? How much to be satisfied? How much to be secure? How much so I stop longing and seeking for more? Typically, people will add a chunk to their current income. Maybe 20 to 40% typically is what people will say. You know, so they're not being ridiculous. They just want another chunk more. And here's the thing. If you get what I'm going to say next into your soul, not into your mind, but into your soul, it'll change your life forever. If you were to find somebody who has that 20% more, that 40% more, you know, the amount that you're looking for, if you found somebody who has that much, and you ask them the same question, do you know what they would say? If you said to them, well, how much do you need in order to have enough? Typically, they'll say 20 to 40% more. Let that just sink in for a minute. You're thinking, actually, if I just had this much, then that would be enough. I'd be satisfied. But if you find someone who's got that much, then they'll tell you they need another chunk up. And guess what? If that person went and found someone who had that chunk, you know what they would say? They would say, well, I just want the next chunk up. And actually, everybody says they're not being greedy. Everybody doesn't want like billions and 20 zeros on the end. But everybody, most people, want a bit more. And I know, you will say that you're different. Everybody does. We say that we're different. We say, well, I know everybody else wouldn't be happy, but if I did have that much, Derek, honestly, if I had that much, I really would be satisfied. It really would be enough. I'd be so content. I just would stop seeking. And you say that to yourself, but it's not true. It's not true. Love of money and longing for more is a trap. And the whole point of traps is we don't see them until we're in them. And I know it's true because that's been my life experience. And maybe it's been yours, that maybe as you've grown up through life, maybe you've got better jobs or your income has went up for various reasons. If you're someone who's been in that situation where you were earning not very much in your teens and maybe in your 20s you got a better job and got a bit more money, and maybe you got more qualified and then your income went up. Okay, every time that it happened, you didn't necessarily arrive at a settled place. It satisfies for a short time, doesn't it? But then we want a little bit more. I've 3 years ago, I was on sabbatical and I went to stay with a friend in Northern Ireland, and I went to stay at his house, and I went into his kitchen, and on the kitchen worktop he had a little piece of heaven. What he had on his kitchen worktop was now I like drinking coffee, and on his kitchen worktop he had a bean to cup coffee machine. What that means is you put the coffee beans in the top and it grinds them fresh and it makes fresh coffee, and it probably has a little wand on the side that you can froth off your milk and you can just make a perfect latte. And he'd invested that machine, not because he was greedy, but because his wife went to Starbucks about 5 times a week and it was costing him a fortune. So he thought that would kind of save money. And while I was there every day, I would have freshly brewed coffee from a bean cup machine, and all I did is press a button. And I said to myself, one day, I'll get myself one of those. And then I looked up at how much money they were, and they were really expensive, and I was like, I'm never having enough much, I can't afford that. But just over the last week, I finally saved up the money and I afforded myself a bean to cup coffee machine. And every morning I wake up with a little degree of excitement because I know I'm going to get a taste of heaven to start my day. I just press the button, freshly ground, then I heat up the milk and it's all frothed and it's amazing. Here's what I know though, that fresh feeling of amazement won't last for long. Because I know when I bought other things that it lasts for a little while, but eventually it'll just become the new normal. It'll just be like, yeah, that's fine. And that's the problem with being dissatisfied, that we think, well, if I only have this, if I only have that money, if I only get there, that'll be enough. But actually, when you get there, it only settles for a little while. The nice new feeling, the contentment only lasts for a short time. And then we want to be on the next thing. And those who long for money, long for more money, long to be rich, they step into a trap of imagining if they just get that, they'll be satisfied. And riches is not getting the most, but needing the least. It's a trap. And the only way that I know have been set free from the trap that money plays on us, the trap of wanting more because we think it'll be secure, the trap of it getting a hold on our heart and stops us being less generous, the trap of trusting in it, the trap of thinking if I only had this and we long for more that we will be satisfied, that the only way I know of avoiding the love of money, which is the root of all kinds of evil, is to adopt a regular habit of getting free through giving away. And it says it in this passage, doesn't it, towards the end? It says about kind of people who are rich can be kind of proud and it can be easy to depend on your money and you try and get satisfaction from money. But actually the only way to be free, it says, is to be generous and to give it away. And 4 times it says, do good works and share and give away. And for people who have got to the place where they're comfortable receiving money, it's easy for money to get a hold of your heart. It's easy for money to make you discontent. It's easy to tell yourself, if I just have a bit more, then I'll be happy. And it can get a hold of your heart. But the only way to be free, in my experience, is to adopt the habit of getting comfortable with regularly giving a proportion away. And particularly if you're a Jesus follower, and particularly if you want your heart to be for God only, this is really, really key. and really, really essential if you're going to get sorted out in your relationship with money. And the Bible often talks about a percentage. It talks about 10% as being a good principle to kind of work towards. And that idea that every time you receive something from God, maybe it's a regular income, your salary, or it's a bonus in some way, that you return 10% back to him, just as a check on your heart, just a recognition that money's not God, that I'm not trusting in money. I don't think money is the be-all. I don't think that my source of joy is in money. I don't think that money is what's going to give me satisfaction. So I'm going to give 10% back to God. I'm going to bless God and say thank you for that. That regular habit is the only check, the only thing that will set you free. And I've given 10% away. I first learned to do it as a new Christian at the age of 17. I was taught that's something to do. And at the time, all I had was pocket money, and it was dead easy to do. And I've kept that up as I've gone through my life. But even though I've been doing it for like 30 years, you know what? I still have some resistance to it. That when I get a bonus or some extra money comes in, there's part of me that wants to forget I've had that extra money in. And I almost have this little trick my brain plays and say, I hope we forget about the whole tithing thing with that money coming in. And even though I've been doing it for a long time, I still find that we can't live without money. We're around money all the time, and we're around wealth. And what I find is just being around it gradually, bit by bit. It's like you get a hold of your heart. It's like a plant that just grows in the garden and just grabs hold of something. And when you regularly give away, you regularly tithe, you regularly give a proportion. It's like cutting those weeds that are trying to grow around your heart. And then you think that you're free because you made a big sacrifice and maybe you've decided to give regularly. But then actually, if you don't notice, they'll start going round again, and maybe your money goes up or something happens, and you find you're trying to get out of it, or you find an excuse, or you're trying to find a way. Certainly that's my experience, that I've got to regularly check my heart and regularly give back to God. And often that's through the local church. That's the easiest and the best way to do that. And it might be that you don't give regularly, and 10% is just like you don't have a clue how you're going to get to that amount. In that case, just pick a percentage. Just agree a percentage and start at that. And God will bless you, and he'll help you move towards 10% and beyond that as you grow in maturity. But it's the only way to get to the point where you have a comfortable relationship with money, where you're comfortable giving money away, where love of money, which means you never have enough, never has a hold of your heart. The only way that I know in which you can get set free. Two types of people when it comes to money. People who are uncomfortable receiving money. And it says everything we have is from God. God gives us the ability to make wealth. And so we should just enjoy what we've got, accept it, acknowledge it. Don't be ashamed and don't apologize for the blessings of God. But then some of us are uncomfortable giving away. And if we're uncomfortable giving away, it probably means that money's got a hold of our heart. And that if we love money and we seek money and we're attached to money, that's a trap, because we'll never have enough and we'll rely on it and it's not secure. But Jesus wants to set us free because he wants us to have joy and he wants us to have peace. And this is the funny thing, that God asks us to give money away, not because he wants something from us. It's not like he's skint and he needs money. He wants you to give money away not because he wants something from you, but actually he wants something for you. He wants you to be free. He doesn't want money to have a hold of your heart. He wants you to have a sense of joy and generosity and freedom. And the last verse that we read in this Bible reading, it talks about just receiving life. Imagine just being free, that you don't need to go into debt, that you're not addicted to buying things, that actually you can just be free and enjoy what God has given you. There was a woman who had this very strange dream. And she had this strange dream about a post office just near to a bus stop that she got for work. And she dreamt that on the bench was this kind of disheveled looking man. And in a dream, she had this sense that she was to ask him for something, that he had something that meant she could be rich forever. And she didn't recognize the man. She'd never seen him before, but she just had it in her dream. Next day, she's heading to work, and as she heads to the bus stop, she looks at the bench, and the bench isn't empty, but the man in a dream is sat there. And she's like, this is really weird. But she decides to go up to him, and she says, this might be a bit weird, but have you got something for me? I had a dream that you'd have something that could help me be rich forever. And the man pulls up his rucksack, And he opens the rucksack, and out of it, he pulls out this giant gold nugget. And he says, "This is for you." And the woman's eyes just kind of explode as she'd given this massive gold nugget. And she goes home and leaves it at home. And then she goes off to work, and she can't stop thinking about it all day. And she's beaming, and she doesn't dare tell anyone. But she's just like, my life's been changed. It's never going to be the same again. I cannot believe this has happened to me. And she got home, and she looked at it, and it was still there. And she thought, is it a dream? No, it's real. I can't believe it. And then she went to sleep that night. And as she was sleeping, as she was starting to go to sleep, just this niggle in the back of her mind, and it just kept her awake. And the niggle just kept going round and round in her mind, and she couldn't get away from it. And she got up the next morning, and she hadn't slept much because she'd just been turning things around in her mind, but she knew when she woke up what she needed to do. And she got the gold nugget and put it back in the bag, and she headed to the post office, and she saw the same man sat there. And she went up to him, and she gave him the gold nugget. And she said, "Will you give me what you've got that means you can give that gold away? Will you give me what you've got that means you can give that away?" Being rich isn't about having the most. It's about needing the least. And the way God sets our hearts free is by engaging in regular habit of sacrificial, proportionate giving. You can't do it just by saying a simple prayer. You've got to do it with real money. But as you do that, God doesn't want something from you. He wants something for you. He wants you to be free. He wants you to be content. He wants you to have joy. And he wants you to have peace. And so if you feel that God is speaking to you and you want to respond with generosity, that you want to make regular giving part of your life, or maybe God's asking you to increase that and do something about that, then you can do that at hopechurchoswestry.org.uk/give on our website, or email me, derek@hopechurchoswestry.org.uk if you want our bank details, and we can help you do that. If you're a visitor or you're not part of our church and you give to other churches, organizations, then that's absolutely fine. Just respond to whatever God is wanting you to do. But if you're not going to church or you're exploring church, then you'd be really welcome to be part of what we're doing here. We always welcome new people to come and get involved and be part of what God is doing here, investing their time and money and seeing a difference that they're making in the community. hopechurchoswestry.org.uk/give. Let's just have our final song now of worship and just thanking God for who he is and what he's done in our lives.
He's so wonderful, so wonderful is your unfailing love. When Christ has spoken mercy over me, and no eye seen, no ears heard, no heart could fully know how glorious, how beautiful you are. You're the beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. You're so powerful, so powerful. Your glory fills the skies. Your mighty work is displayed for all to see. It's the beauty of your majesty that wakes my heart to sing. How marvelous, how wonderful you are. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul will sing. Beautiful one, beautiful one. Love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Anywhere I open my eyes to your voice, you capture my heart with this love. There's nothing on earth that's as beautiful as you. And you open my eyes to your wonders in me. Capture my heart with his love. There's nothing on earth as beautiful as you. You're the beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. My soul, my soul, my soul must sing. My soul must sing. My soul must sing. Beautiful one, my soul. My soul must sing. My soul must sing. My soul must sing. The beautiful one. You're the beautiful one. I love, beautiful one. So mercy.
Thanks to the band for that song, and that brings our time together. I hope God's spoken to you. I hope he's encouraged you, and I just want to pray his blessing upon you. Make sure you connect with us on Facebook and YouTube during the week and be part of our church family. But let me just pray for you just now. I just pray, Father, for the people who've watched this service that have been part of what we do. And will you just bless them through this week? May they know that every good thing they have comes from you. And for those that need to be set free with their finances, will you do that as well? Will you just set them free from guilt and just give them freedom and joy and peace that they need? In the name of Jesus, we pray this. Amen.